Thank you, Hillary, so much. It is great to be here among such good friends and longtime colleagues. Hillary asked me to capture very briefly tonight the context of today and the Chesapeake Bay's history. And so I thought I would start maybe with the meteor, move through the Ice Age. Perhaps we do the first sewage treatment plant in Baltimore in the 1600s, which is actually true. Move to Hurricane Agnes in the 1970s. Okay, we're done with the history. So let's start. To many of us, the modern Chesapeake Bay cleanup program began in 1983 at a historic conference out in Northern Virginia. And we had a first Chesapeake Bay agreement signed by then a series of governors, the mayor. It was about 3 paragraphs long. It was, for a little point of reference, right when I was fresh out of college, Will Baker had soon ascended to the role of president of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation at the time, Will, was about a $1.2 million organization with maybe 25 staff based in the church, to give you a little bit all of a context for how things have changed. This was really quite a remarkable birth of a modern, what is now recognized as international cleanup program. For those of us in the trenches at the time, it was a little bit different from the past, but perhaps also a little bit more of the same. And many of us got together and created the very first Chesapeake Coalition, you should all know, in 1987. It was led by CBF and NRDC and several other names that you'll recognize today. It was a whopping coalition of 12 members who were dedicated to implementing or developing the 1987 Chesapeake Bay Agreement, which for the very first time we thought put clear specifics in the context of the Chesapeake Bay cleanup, and the governors committed for the first time to achieve a 40% reduction of nutrients by the year 2000. At the time, I was employed by a wonderful woman here in the audience. I started as an intern for Louise Dunlop, and we were working to hand it together in 1987 to get this new Chesapeake Bay Agreement ultimately adopted. Well, we can fast forward now really a couple of decades, because we all know the story as to what happened. We didn't achieve the 2000 agreement, the goals in 2000. There was a subsequent agreement signed in 2000, which pledged to achieve water quality standards in the Chesapeake Bay by the year 2010. That did not happen. And there was a series of lawsuits brought by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, brought by some other organizations on the TMDL, and created, to me, what today is a historic change in the future of the Bay cleanup with the new TMDL. This new TMDL, in many ways, is not unlike the framework agreements of the past. It's a little bit different, of course, in its context, its legal status, but fundamentally it is really a commitment by the governments to achieve a series of specific goals by a specific time period. The difference here, of course, is there is an accountability mechanism that has never existed in the past. But in many ways, the challenge going forward is not all that different from the challenges we faced in the past. I wanted to reflect very briefly on this future, because I think this is really the challenge for all of us who have put so much of our heart and soul into this bay for the last 30 years. It would not have happened were it not for the work, not just of 30 years of environmental advocacy, the likes of which CBF, NRDC, Sierra Club, many of you in this room have made happen. It would not have happened were it not for the litigation that some of you brought. And most importantly, this TMDL would not have happened were it not for the work of this very coalition that's here tonight. And I think that is something that everybody in this room can take a whole lot of pride in. The work that you all did with editorial boards, with reporters, with grassroots work, it was really nothing short of phenomenal. And to you, the funders that made all of this happen, thank you very much. And you all get a big round of applause, so thank you for your help. The TMDL was signed a couple weeks ago, and many people let a big sigh of relief, including my former colleagues at EPA, who lost more than their share of vacations, including Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Labor Day, you name it. There always seem to be deadlines right around holidays time. it was a big sigh of relief, but I think those of us who really know and spend a lot of time with this realize that this is really just the beginning of a new era. The reality is that the decisions now go to regulatory agencies at the federal level, at the state level, and it is ultimately people like you all in this room that will hold the governments accountable for issuing permits that are in fact consistent with the TMDL. This is not work that is as sexy. Perhaps it is not work that is as easily saleable to the general public or to elected officials, but it is important work nonetheless. And I firmly believe that the Bay will be saved or not based on that kind of work in the regulatory agencies about what these permits look like going forward, whether it's dealing with agriculture, whether it's dealing with stormwater, sewage treatment plants, and the issues that you all know incredibly well. I've spent some time, and we'll be happy to spend some more time with folks reflecting on what we see as some of the biggest challenges going forward. The Chesapeake is a love of my life. It will always be that way. I look to spend as much time as I can on the Chesapeake, but I am fortunate to have got a new pond to play in, one that is the size of the world's oceans, and it's something that I'm really excited to be entering the philanthropic world once again and helping to conserve the world oceans. My one parting word of wisdom for all of you on the Chesapeake is never forget what a wonderful body of water this is and how it can inspire so many of us to enjoy the outdoors and to love the outdoors and to get away from our Xboxes and our video games and to really remember what it's like to be human. Thank you all very much.